Disney is damaged, and no one knows exactly when it'll recover. Seems like the understatement of the freaking century. I mean, you're talking about a company here that came off a 2019 that blew everything out of the proverbial water. Now, this company, though, it's reliant on parks and entertainments, and it's reliant on movie studios, something that isn't working right now. So what you see instead of that is an earnings plunge of 93%. That's right, 93%, as Disney needs to borrow billions just to stay afloat. So hey there. So today we return to that wonderful world of Disney numbers to talk about the dependence that Disney has on certain items and how exactly that hurts them in the long term. Now, before we get going, we have a book that's going to go on Indiegogo May the 15th. I hope you'll be here to stream. That's my birthday as well. And we have a sign-up sheet before that. If you sign up for it and you decide to purchase something on May the 15th or beyond, you'll get an exclusive trading card with that. This is the only way to get it, so make sure you do that. And thank you, as always. I'll tell you more at the end of the video. So when it comes to Disney, so many things have been going wrong as of late. I've started asking myself a question. What exactly is going right? And you know what? I'm having a lot of problems finding anything to fill that void. If you look at what is responsible for half of Disney's profits normally, you're talking about theme parks. And right now, all theme parks, all 14 of them, they're all closed down. Even when they reopen, you're going to have this specter, that's going to be hanging over that. An invisible enemy, as it were. And that invisible enemy, it's claimed lives. It's supposedly claimed lives within the California theme parks. So how do you get people to go back? The same thing goes with cruise ships. I mean, we've all seen the headlines with people being trapped there, with people getting sick, with them basically being treated like death ships. So how do you convince people in the aftermath of this to go back and to say, hey, let's reset back to the norm? Broadway musicals, nobody wants to go to those. They're all locked down. Nobody wants to be part of them. So yeah, no money in that. When you look at movies, I mean, that has been an absolute calamity. I'm sure that there are Disney heads there hoping, beyond hope, that they can re-release or do something with certain movies. Because Mulan, because Onward, I mean, you have lots of money sunk in, and you got nothing back. Now remember, as this said, the film units, not long ago, they claimed 40% of all tickets sold, and now they can't produce a movie, they can't release a movie. And what they're looking at, with things that are made and all the investment tied up in it, how do you continue to go forward? Now looking at toys too, I mean, think about all of the toys that they've produced for those movies, for movies that are supposed to come out, and also for other merchandising like, say, Star Wars. I mean, we have the theme parks tied in, but we also have the merchandising tied in, and that stuff, it can't move. Sports too. I mean, we're talking about an absolute nightmare scenario when it comes to ESPN. Now, I disagree with their framing here, former ratings juggernaut, maybe in another life, but not because of this. But when it comes to no sports, oh yeah, it hurts them quite a bit. Almost $500 million were lost because of the NBA alone. I mean, that's just one type of sport here. When you talk about the numbers associated with this, I mean, they're absolutely crazy. And you start understanding why Disney, they had to borrow $5.6 billion just to stay afloat. So Disney theme parks, they lost $1 billion in profit in the last financial quarter due to the, I'm going to call it, current social situation. And that's just the start of its expected losses, the company told investors today. Over the last month and a half, Disney has relied almost entirely on its cable, broadcast, and streaming TV businesses to stay afloat as this current issue forces the closure of most in-person experiences like parks and movie theaters around the world. The two parks in the U.S., talking about Disneyland and Disney World, as well as Disneyland Paris, were shuttered in mid-March, a few weeks before the quarter ended. Shanghai Disney Resort was closed in January. Total revenues for the Disney park businesses were $5.5 billion. That's billion dollars in the quarter, down 10% from the same period last year and ending 3 straight quarters of growth. But the real damage won't be known until Disney's new quarterly earnings reports in August, which covered the period from April through June. Now, Disney says it's resiliency and brand affinity. That's their mantra here. They love telling stockholders resiliency, brand identity, that will carry them through the storm or the crisis. But no one knows how or when that will happen. See, that's the thing. How are you going to make this manifest? How are you going to get things back on those proverbial rails? Well, no one knows that answer, so of course you can't make plans. And really, the model for Disney, the reason that it's successful is the reason that it's so vulnerable right now, because it's so dependent on things that have people interacting. Yeah, that doesn't work out. Now, if you look at the numbers here too, if you look at what has been successful over time, this is the real telling thing. You see parks and products, and if you look at the money that makes, it's quite a bit. Then you have your television, of course, making money, but television, it also has quite a bit of cost. I mean, when we're talking profitability, you're talking the parks and products. TV, it has a lot sunk into it, so it can make a little bit of money. Movie studios, they have a lot of overhead too. And then streaming, you notice you get more and more money out of it. But, they've had to sink more and more into it. So a few months ago, Disney was on top of the world, coming off a record-breaking 2019. Its films accounted for nearly 40% of the U.S. box office, and its global theme parks were flourishing. The biggest concern at the time was arguably the decrease in cable TV subscribers as Americans cut the cord, a problem that seems quaint today. Now, what's interesting is that they had a terrible year a few years before that, showing how vulnerable this company can be. But of course, they brushed that aside too, said that stuff, it had been remedied. Look at all the money we're making now. And people, they bought into that, thinking that they could not fail. Now, though, Disney is reeling, and its business uniquely threatened by this mess, this current social situation. Netflix, which doesn't have theme parks or movie theaters to worry about, surpassed Disney in market capitalization last month for only the second time ever and hasn't looked back. While Netflix stock is up 28% this year, Disney is down 28%. That says a lot within this too. They don't have any overhead. These places that are just existing out here in the proverbial ether. You have a Netflix there versus, say, a Disney. And yeah, it shows too. Now, Disney also told investors that the cancellation of all U.S. sports has unsurprisingly wounded its flagship sports network, ESPN, leading to lower viewership and, in turn, lower advertising revenues. Prior to today's earnings, media analyst Michael Nathanson of this place here downgraded their Disney stocks, arguing the effects of this current social situation on Disney's core businesses will last longer than many believe. He forecasted that the company's parks and movie segments will drop 33% and 20% in revenue this year, respectively. Those would be monster hits. If we're talking 33% and 20% in revenue drop, respectively, what a mess there. It's unclear when Disney will be able to reopen its U.S. parks and cruises again, and when they do, how to do so safely. If it jumps the gun, it could lead to not only public relations and financial disasters, but more importantly, human disasters too. I think all of those are intertwined, by the way. When you have a human disaster, you're going to have one heck of a PR nightmare, and that, in turn, is going to be a financial disaster. And it's cruise ships, which epidemiologists have said are akin to floating virus incubators, could be set back years. Yeah, I don't know how you ever return to that. Disney did announce, however, it will reopen the Shanghai Park on May 11th with a number of precautions in place, including mandatory mask use and temperature checks. Would you want to go to a park like that, by the way? You got to wear a mask. You got to have your temperature taken. Would you go there? Fewer guests will be allowed into the park at any time. Disney executives told investors that they didn't know when its other parks will be able to open. I mean, how do you have fun like that, though? How would it ever work? The company furloughed 100,000 workers without pay last month, representing roughly half of its employees in response to the current social situation. Today, the company announced it would forgo its semi-annual dividend it pays investors. Disney has also entered into agreements with banks so it can access $13 billion in loans to increase its cash on hand. So you remember that positive I was talking about? Yeah, the only one they could find is Disney Plus because it's garnered 54.5 million subscribers, and there's this expectation that if we keep on this trend, they'll have between 60 and 80 million global subscribers by the end of 2021. As far as earnings are concerned, the streaming operations, they passed $4 billion for the first time last quarter, and they're expected to open up new areas with Europe and South America. But still, if you're celebrating streaming for Disney, think about how far things have fallen. Again, I don't see how things ever get back. We're talking about a 93% decline. That is monstrous. And yeah, things, they just keep looking worse. But anyway, you tell me what you see in this stuff. Do you see anything getting better? And when it does, how long will it take? I'm curious what you think about this. So to close, I want to mention the book, and I want to thank you for checking this out. We're talking about launching our second, May the 15th. As I noted, we'll have a huge stream then. That's also my birthday, so make sure that you're there. And make sure you check out our comic book, Another Case for the Littlest Umbrella. This is an all-ages Lovecraftian type tale where that umbrella guy and little umbrella girl face off against an ancient threat in an all-new adventure. Why those characters? Well, because it was something that I could showcase to my daughter. We could do this together. And it was a phenomenal success before, and I think that it can be even more successful now, and I'd like to share that with everyone. If you sign up for this and you pick up a purchase on May 15th or beyond, you will end up getting a trading card just for signing up. So make sure you check out the link in the description and do that. Yeah, and thank you so much for that too. I don't pick up sponsors. I don't do anything like that, but this is something I believe in. And if you believe in it too, check it out. If not, thank you for being here. You make these endeavors possible. You make all of this stuff work out, and that by itself is meaning enough. But anyhow, thanks for showing up. I appreciate you. We'll do this again, and yeah, I'll see you next time.